Well, good morning. Happy Monday. It is Monday, the 23rd of February. We're almost almost through February and almost done with spring. And then we'll be in summer. And then it starts all over again. Thank you for joining me. I hope you had a good weekend. I had a great weekend. We started our first Sunday of the Red Letter Challenge. It was this weekend. And hearing stories back of people who are doing their studies, I go to a Sunday morning study, and that one was it was good to experience it from the participant side because I'll be doing it from the leader side on Wednesday night and on Thursday morning. So it's really kind of exciting. I think people are really pleased with how this is going. In case you're wondering, we're doing a 40-day Lenten challenge going through a book called The Red Letter Challenge, and written by Zach Zender. He's a pastor somewhere in the Midwest. I think the Zender family is from Colorado. I know that, or there's a whole bunch of them in that area, but I think he's in Omaha, maybe at King of Kings in Omaha. Very, very big, famous, if churches could be famous. Very, very well-respected church, I guess. Maybe, I don't know how you call it. Anyway, just an overall great weekend with a lot of fun things. We had the bingo yesterday. That was kind of fun. Raising money for the middle school so they could go on their middle school trip coming up in a couple months. And I will be going to that trip, so I'll let you know because I won't be doing the morning Bible study at those trips. It's after Easter. And we just finished the first Sunday in Lent, and there's 5 of them in Easter. So is that right? 5? Yeah. 5 Lenten Sundays, then Palm Sunday, and then Easter. So really 6 if you consider Palm Sunday. And then the week after that, I'm gone. And so we're just kind of trying to, get through the end of the year, make sure that we get all the things accomplished we want to get accomplished. But a really, really good weekend. I have this chair that I've been working on that just is giving me fits, but I'll get there. I'll get there. We have an island in the middle of our kitchen, and we have these chairs that are up against the islands you can sit on and eat if you wanted to. We don't really do that, but they're nice chairs, and they haven't worked, so we've had them out in the back porch. And then I tightened them all up, but I got one screw that's just basically giving me fits, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to fix that one, and then all the chairs will be fixed. I think I've never purchased anything from IKEA, but I think we may have gotten them from somebody who did. And I don't know if we bought them in a garage sale or if somebody donated them to us, but they're definitely the IKEA type chairs where you put all the things together. I mean, I've put together furniture before, and maybe it is from IKEA, but the last time I put together furniture was long before IKEA was around. So, and I've never been inside an IKEA store. There's one on the way to Phoenix, but I'm usually hurrying to get to Phoenix or hurrying to get out of Phoenix, so I don't really stop at the IKEA store. I think one of these days, Jennifer and I just need to go to IKEA and walk through it. You never know. It might be something cool to see. Let's see. Birthdays. We have no birthdays today. As a matter of fact, our next birthday isn't for a couple days. Yeah, look at that. And so we are going to study Deuteronomy today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And then Thursday, we'll go back to the Red Letter Challenge. And that'll be our schedule while I'm in town. We also have some trips planned, but I'll be telling you about those later on. So if you get on the internet, on Facebook, expecting there to be a Bible study, there will be some times over the next 4 or 5 weeks where I won't be there. And just have to say, okay, and hopefully I think there's a way to let you know in advance, but I don't know how to do that. So maybe I'll do some investigation into that. All right. We are in Deuteronomy chapter 11. And this is the longest discourse of Moses. Started back in chapter 4, and then in chapter 6, we had the great Shema, Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And that was way back in chapter 6. We're now in chapter 11. And Moses is basically reinforcing this thought that the Israelites are to fear and love God. And then we'll get out of this long speech. But fearing and loving God is critical to the Israelites, because if they don't fear and love God, then the whole thing falls apart. What good is it to be in the promised land? What is it good to gain the whole world but lose your soul? The whole purpose of the promised land is so that they can love God better. And if they're not going to love God better, they might as well go out in the wilderness and move around. The whole purpose of this whole exercise of coming out of Egypt is so that they can be their own nation under God, and follow him and be loved by him and worship him. And if you're not going to do that, might as well just go back in Egypt. I mean, my goodness, this is a serious thing that they should love God. All right, let's pick up the story then in chapter 11, beginning of verse 1. Love the Lord your God and keep his requirements, his decrees, his laws, and his commands, always. Remember today that your children were not the ones who saw and experienced the discipline of the Lord your God, his mighty hand, his outstretched arm, the signs he performed, and the things he did in the heart of Egypt, both to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his whole country, what he did to the Egyptian army, to his horses and chariots, how he overwhelmed them with the waters of the Red Sea as they were pursuing you, and how the Lord brought lasting ruin on them. It was not your children who saw what he did for you in the wilderness until you arrived at this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, the Reubenite, when the earth opened its mouth right in the middle of all of Israel and swallowed them up with their households, their tents, and their living things that belonged to them. But it was your own eyes that saw all these great things the Lord has done. So what Moses is trying to emphasize here is that they've been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. And in that 40 years, the children have grown up. And these are children that did not live in slavery in Egypt. Imagine that you were enslaved in Egypt. You saw the Exodus, God's mighty hand, and you wandered in the desert. And then you have new children that rise up, and they did not experience that. So the only way that they will know is if the parents tell them and explain the story and reinforce it. And this is why the Israelites celebrate Passover every year, so that they can remember the story, because they were not the ones that went through it. It was their ancestors. Here it's your grandparents, or maybe your great-grandparents, or maybe your mother and father. I don't know. Somehow they have to be told about the experience. It, in a way, this is kind of an off topic, but in the 1940s, Germany imprisoned several people in concentration camps, most of them Jewish. And they survived. Many of them did, not a lot. Many of them died in concentration camps. And these people that survived, many of them, I don't think any of them are alive yet today. I think the youngest you might be in a concentration camp in 1945 is maybe, and remember it, is maybe 10. And so you'd have been born in 1930. Yeah, so you might be 90 years old. There might be a few people still alive. But once that whole group of people is gone, then the stories are told from their children and their grandchildren. And there's a lot of overlap and similarity here, because what they experienced was brutal hardship in the concentration camp. And then the war ended, they were freed, and they have that experience embedded, deeply ingrained into their psyche and who they are. And they want to make sure that that story lives on, that people don't forget the brutality of the German leadership at the time, the Third Reich at that time. But over time, that the intensity of that story and how it's told will reduce, because the people that lived through it are no longer there to tell it firsthand. Although I do believe that they've interviewed many, 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 probably hundreds of them, and their story is on tape or on video recording. And there are movies and other documentaries around that. So at least we have that. But the Israelites did not have that at this time. The only thing they had were the people that were alive that could tell the story, but then they're gonna die. As a matter of fact, all of them, except for 2, are dead when they cross over into the Promised Land. Elijah and Caleb. Moses dies, his brother Aaron dies, his sister Miriam dies, the vast majority of everybody else dies. And the only people that are left that actually experienced this are Joshua and Caleb. And so it's their responsibility to make sure that the story is told so that it's not forgotten about of God's incredible rescue from slavery in Egypt. If you are an Israelite, this is the number one story that you cling to as a Jew, because it is the moment that God, there's others that are also incredible. The creation story, the flood story, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, all these are great things that children need to learn about. But this rescue from slavery of Egypt is almost like, it is as important to Jewish people as Jesus coming in the flesh to dwell with us, God coming in the flesh to dwell with us. It's the same thing. It's of that importance, I should say. It's that important. It has to be told. And that's why we celebrate what we're celebrating right now. We're in Lent. We're going to get into the Palm Sunday, then we'll get into Easter Sunday, and all these are huge parts of our psyche, because we have to tell the story over and over and over again. Otherwise, it fades away into nothingness, and nobody remembers it. And you can't do that. It's too important. Verse 8, observe, therefore, all the commands I'm giving you today, so that you may have the strength to go in and take over the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, and so that you may live long in the land the Lord swore to your ancestors to give to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. The land you are entering to take over is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you planted your seed and irrigated it by foot as in a vegetable garden. But the land you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of is a land of mountains and valleys that drinks rain from heaven. It is a land the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are continually on it from beginning of the year to its end. So this is a different land than what was in Egypt. It's got hills, it's got mountains, it's got valley, but the most important thing is that God is watching over it. It's not a land flowing with milk and honey just because it's got fertile soil. It's a land flowing with milk and honey because God is overseeing it. And the people that go, it's almost like a second Garden of Eden, where the people know, this is my God, I am his child, I am his chosen, and he is going to live with me and guide me and protect me and be with me in the promised land if I keep his commands. I mean, if you don't keep the commands, then the nation falls apart from within. It won't exist. You have to follow God's commands, and then it'll all work out for you. We find out they don't. It's unfortunate. It would have been cool if they had. It would have been interesting to see how life would have progressed. But it also would have been cool if Adam and Eve didn't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It would have been better if that didn't happen too. There's just several different times. It would have been good if mankind didn't fall into ravenous sin right before the flood. There are things that would have been good if it had followed a different path, but they don't follow a different path because they're man. And man, once you eat from the tree, knowledge of good and evil, you want to be like God. and you want all of it for yourself. And that's the root sin. Man curved in on himself. Luther would say, curvatus in se, man curved into himself, curved inwards. All right, verse 13. So if you faithfully obey the commands I'm giving you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine and olive oil. I will provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and you will eat and you'll be satisfied. It'll be a land flowing with abundance, incredible abundance. Your cows will have enough to eat. The rain will come, the seasons will come. There'll be plenty of produce. It'll be a wonderful thing. Just follow me. And they don't do it. That's the unfortunate thing. They just don't have the capacity to do it. They try at times, but ultimately the sinful condition bubbles up and they're not able to. The human sinful condition. Verse 16. Be careful or you'll be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. Then the Lord's anger will burn against you, and he will shut up the heavens so that it will not rain, and the ground will yield no produce, and you will soon perish from the good land the Lord is giving you. Fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds, tie them as symbols on your hands, and bind them onto your foreheads. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Write them on your doorframes of your houses and your gates, so that your days and the days of your children may be many in the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors, as many as the days that the heavens are above the earth. And there are Jews that literally do this. They'll tie little commands onto they're called phylacteries, I think. And they literally do all this stuff and as an outward sign to remember God's word, so that they follow God, so that it may go well. But this isn't just an individual sport. If half of Israel does this, but the other half does not, then it all falls apart. Every individual Israelite needs to be, yes, a follower and do these things and teach them to their children. But it has to be the whole group. It can't be just a portion, because so many of these commands are communal commands. And it's the way that the whole community operates. Like, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Well, you might remember the Sabbath, but if everybody else is working on the Sabbath, you are going to get left behind. But if everybody remembers the Sabbath and keeps it holy, if everybody refrains from working on one day a week, then that is the expectation of the whole community, and they can follow it. And God will bless them. If everybody in the community follows God's laws, the whole community survives, because the whole community is knit together into God. And even if you have one or two people that fail, then you deal with them and move on. But if the vast majority of the community is following God, then the community will survive. I think about the United States today and how we're so fractured. And we have so many people going in so many different directions, and we're fractured in so many different ways that you wonder how we will survive. Because there was a time in history where we were all united. And one purpose, one constitution, one ideal of what it means to be an American. Now it's all fractured. It'll be interesting to see how the next 50 years plays out because of that. If the United States will still be the dominant force in the world, which I would hope it would be, but it may not be. We are very, very fragile right now. But I don't know if you want to call it good news or bad news, but the news is that the rest of the world is worse and fractured than we are. So unless I think China seems to be united, but they're united under false pretexts. They are a dictatorship, and they are very much communist ruled, socialist ruled, and that in one sense it provides unity because everybody has to obey one person, and that person has some longevity to attach to him, but it doesn't provide a lot of freedom. So they're well on their way up the economic ladder and becoming a powerhouse, but a powerhouse for what is to be determined in the future. And we get a lot of our stuff from China. It's not, I've never been there. Verse 22. If you carefully observe all these commands that I'm giving you to follow, to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him and to hold fast to him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations before you, and you will dispossess nations larger and stronger than you. Every place where you set your foot will be yours. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the Euphrates River to the Mediterranean Sea. No one will be able to stand up against you. The Lord your God, as he promised you, will put the terror and fear of you on the whole land wherever you go. And this is true. The more successful that Israel is in conquering the neighbors, the more that message gets out. And some people are just like, I don't want to fight the Israelites. I'm going to go out of here, and we're going to let this land. But one of the things that you should note here is that there has to be some level of violence in order to get the respect that Israel needs. And if you look at any ruler in history, in order for that ruler to provide peace for his people, in some instances, he has to be brutal to the outsiders. If you look at Vlad Tepes, who lived in Romania, at the crossroads of Europe, Romania, and people would constantly come into Romania, and Vlad set up, he would kill people, and then he would put them on posts on the entrance into Romania, and people thought he was crazy, that he, Vlad Tepes the Impaler, the bloodthirsty Vlad Tepes. I don't know how many of those that he actually did, but it was the fear of Vlad Tepes that allowed Romania to live in peace for a long time. It is a fool's errand to think that your leader can't have some level of brutality in his psyche so that the laws are followed. You can't be, anybody can do anything. You just can't do that. You have to have laws. They have to be enforced, and you have to fear at some level the system behind those laws so that you do follow them, because once that breaks down, it all falls apart. All right, verse 26. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I'm giving you today. The curse if you disobey the commands of the Lord your God and turn from the way that I command you today by following other gods which you have not known. When the Lord your God has brought you into the land you are entering to possess, you are to proclaim on Mount Gezerim the blessings, and on Mount Ebal the curses. As you know, these mountains are across the Jordan westward towards the setting sun near the great trees of Morah, in the territory of those Canaanites living in the Arabah in the vicinity of Gilgal. You're about to cross the Jordan to enter and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you. And when you have taken it over and are living there, be sure that you obey all the decrees and laws I'm setting before you today. And there is that moment where they are on these two mountains and they do the blessings and the curses on these two mountains, Mount Gezerim and Ebal. And I believe Mount Gezerim is also where the Samaritans, is that where they worshipped a god? I have to go back and look at that. But anyway, these are what you're supposed to do. And it's basically a reminder to all the Israelites to not forget God. Every day, wake up, remember God, ask God for guidance in your life, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. Famous words of Jesus in Matthew. All right. I think we'll leave it there. Let's close in prayer. Gracious God, thanks for this day. And until we meet again, keep us in your grace. Amen. So it was really super windy out this morning, and I'm looking out the window here, and there's not much of a wind. I guess it kind of died down. I'm really, really excited about that because it was just brutally windy this morning. Let's see. Thank you, all of you joining me online. Oh, thanks, Suzanne. I appreciate that. Yeah, hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.